Hi, my name is Rick Caballero. I'm the host of S2BC, Served Twice by Choice. Our guest today is Mike Simonelli, and my co-host is Matt Baines. We're here to talk about veterans and our first responders that dedicated a lifetime committing to the country and community. And today, both these guys have just done that. And Mike's been a two-time veteran. He's in multiple branches. And thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, for being on the show. Mike has also written a book. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Justified Deadly Force, about policing and all that good stuff. So we will talk about that here in a bit. But Mike, tell us about you, where you were born.
All right, thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me here. Born in Brooklyn, New York, back in '71. Grew up there, went to the public schools there, and couldn't get out of there fast enough. So at 17, I joined the military.
And what branch was that?
That was the Air Force. I went to the Air Force Academy. See, my dad was a Vietnam vet, Army soldier, enlisted, and he didn't want his son to go through, I guess, what he went through, so he was pushing the officer route. I just wanted to go to combat, so I guess Top Gun was probably big back then. I went for the Air Force Academy.
Just released a new one.
The new one is 100 times better, by the way.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Let me ask you this. Did your dad feed you a lot of stories about when he was in Vietnam?
No, he didn't really talk about Nam. My mom made a nice thing about his medals and put it up in the hallway in the house. If I hadn't seen that, or maybe come across one of his T-shirts from Vietnam, probably wouldn't have even known.
Really?
He didn't really talk about it.
You see a lot of guys, they have a chest or something they don't know about until later on, somebody finally comes across it.
Right.
Do you remember what medals he had by chance?
From what I remember, the Army Commendation Medal, the Campaign Medal, and obviously the Bronze Star stood out because there was 4 medals in the case, and that was the highest one.
That's an accomplishment. You know, there's so many decorated guys that didn't get decorated because, like, one of my guests was in Vietnam. He said there was no one there to witness it or write any of this shit down, so they didn't get recognized what they were supposed to get recognized for. So you go into the Air Force. How old are you?
17.
17. What was... Like, you're in fit now. You're in good shape. Were you in shape then when you went in?
Yeah, I was always into fitness. My dad he's a gym guy, so 14, 15, I was doing push-ups, pull-ups, the whole deal. I was ready physically to go.
Yeah. And what about mentally? When you went in, I know you were in the Coast Guard. I think they let you keep your hair, right?
No.
No?
They shaved my head.
But when they shave your head, it's like an eye-opener, man. Like, what the fuck did I do?
You just got
Believe it or not, I think we all had hair at one time, right?
Yeah.
So when they shave your head, it's like, holy fuck, is this what I want to do?
Back then, I fancied myself a bit of a pretty boy, so I had some nice hair, you could imagine. It wasn't a good look, but it was a sacrifice you knew you had to make because you wanted to do bigger and better things down the line. So, yeah, shave the hair and go through the whole thing, the whole basic. In the academy, it's basically the whole summer. It's, I think, 60 days is your basic training. Then the rest of your freshman year is an extended basic training where you're treated just like you're in basic.
So after boot camp, they call it your freshman year?
Yeah.
It's like high school?
It's plebe year, freshman year,
Okay. I never knew that. I never heard that.
No,
And it's the same as West Point and Annapolis. Most people don't know of the Air Force Academy, but all 3 are the same. Same thing with the Coast Guard Academy.
Okay. And how was that going through the academy? No problem, you said, physically. Did you find any difficulty at all? In the
Academy wasn't probably the best place for me. You come out of there basically with a minor in engineering. Very smart people. I'm not that smart of a person. Math and science not my forte. It's very heavy in that. So I struggled academically. And then being a teenager, I naturally had teenage, desires.
Yeah.
So I was doing, some things maybe I should have been studying instead of doing what I was doing.
Okay.
But I made it through. Actually, all you had to do was graduate. You get commissioned. Everybody becomes a second lieutenant. It's all the same.
So what do you call them, like butter bars in the Marine Corps? Like,
Butter bars,
yeah. Butter bars. Yeah. So after the Air Force, you're there, how long in the Air Force?
I did 5-year commitment from graduating the academy.
Any, I can't remember the years, any wartime during that time? Did you go anywhere?
No, actually, while I was in the academy, it was the first Gulf War, which was over in, I think, a matter of weeks, with the first time with Saddam Hussein in Kuwait and Iraq. So when I graduated in '93, it was pretty much a lull. I say it was a horrible time to be in the military, because if you're not actively engaging, you're training, training's kind of boring.
Roy, you watching this? Did they just, me?
Oh, there was no slight against you. I was in at that time.
So
I was miserable. I'm
no,
sorry.
I know, but the way I was like, hey, he just fucking rubbed him off on me. What the fuck is that all about? Fucking Air Force guys.
They try to do it right in front of your face. You gotta see it.
So, all right, Air Force. What did you do after that?
It was the Cold War. I mean, come on.
Right.
It was being one behind the scenes. After my 5 years, I got out. I went back to New York and I started the process with the alphabet agencies, FBI, Secret Service, DEA. And that was taking so long. In the meantime, I was a bartender, personal trainer, real estate agent. I finally got sick of waiting. I took the test and joined NYPD. They pretty much called right away.
Really?
And I lived in Brooklyn, so it was ideal.
Now, at that time, when you get on NYPD, what is the manpower? I know we're in the thousands, but what is it roughly?
It's got to be 30 to 40,000.
40,000.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big fucking department.
Oh, each class was, I think, about 2,000 big.
Really?
And there would be 1,000 in the day shift and 1,000 in the night shift. Yeah,
Now,
it's
I've been
huge.
to New York a few times, and there's a lot of, like, I wouldn't say they're foreigners, but there's a big nationality mix in the New York Police Department.
It's the melting pot of the world, yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, are they coming in to take this test, or are they already there, you think?
No, they're already there.
They're already there?
Yeah, it's a majority minority police department.
Yeah.
New York City, like the public school I was talking about going to, I was a minority in my high school.
Okay.
That's the way New York City is, you know?
Yeah. No, I get that. I just wasn't sure. Like, who was just telling me, one of the Dallas guys was just telling me that I think they went to Puerto Rico to recruit.
Oh,
You know?
they do actively recruit,
Yeah.
but I don't think they really need to.
Right. And so
I mean, they need to now because the way things have gone upside down. Officers are retiring before they even get vested or get their pension because it's like fleeing a sinking ship.
yeah.
The way the city council there hates them, the way the governor's anti-police, bail reforms, disaster. But back then, even when I went into the police precinct to get the test, the guy was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" But anyway, they were cops, so obviously they did.
Yeah. And then you New York for how long?
Only 6 months.
6 months.
While I was in that academy, it's a 9-month academy. I got called from Suffolk, and when Suffolk County calls, you answer because it's a much better pay, much better working conditions, much better support by the people and
I've
even the
definitely heard
electeds.
that they're one of the highest paid departments in the
Yeah,
country.
so you had already had your
Just makes me jealous.
New York State policing license then at that point.
No, because I didn't graduate the academy.
Oh, okay.
And actually, their academy doesn't count in Suffolk. So I had to go, I went from one academy to another. So I did a full year, and several of my classmates too left NYPD's academy, came with me. So it was a full month of being paid to be an athlete, really.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a piece of
I get
cake.
that. And then you're currently, what, 22 years on the job?
22, yeah.
Okay. And then you obviously go back into the service, you go into the Air Force, you get in Suffolk County. Do you stay National Guard at that time?
So as soon as I got back to New York, I switched over to the Army. I went as a tactical intel officer. No slight to anybody, but I never felt like I was really very military because my Air Force MOS was finance.
Yeah.
Not the most exciting. I think my job hazards I had to fill out on an OSHA form or paper cuts and staplers. So I was kind of peeved about that, and I still wanted to have that opportunity. If something happened in the future, I was going to be a soldier. So I switched over to the Army, and I was in the Army National Guard until after 9/11 happened.
Okay, I was just going to get to that. You're at Suffolk County.
Yes.
What year did you go to Suffolk County?
2000.
2000. So just like a year later.
Within the same year, I was in the city and I transferred to Suffolk.
No, what I'm saying, when 9/11
Oh,
happened.
9/11 happened the next year, yeah.
Are you out of the academy and everything already?
I am. When 9/11 happened, I was, I think, off field training. I was working in the 3rd Precinct. I had just done a 4 to 12 shift. So that week I was on 4 to 12s. So I woke up around 10, 11 o'clock to the news showing the towers having been attacked and I think fallen at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, being from New York, and I've never really sat down and discussed stuff with people like that. I know there's one guy, his name is Dean, he's from South Carolina, who was a New York cop, retired. And when he goes back, it hits home. Can you explain to our audience what that was like being from New York and that happening? And obviously you might have friends in there or you know, relatives or whatever.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was incredibly personal. As a New Yorker, you grow up seeing that skyline. Every time I would drive from Brooklyn going into Manhattan, you know, I would look at the towers. I would see them when I get there. My father was a construction worker, so I've been to those buildings. I've admired the beauty of what our men and women built there.
Yeah.
So that was deeply personal. And when I woke up and I saw that, it was in a matter of hours. I went in for my regular shift, and as I was getting ready to switch over, I got the call from my National Guard unit. They were stationed in Upper East Side, Manhattan. We were activated, and driving into New York that day was 9/11. It was absolutely surreal. You see the cloud of dust in the background, and the expressway, the Bell Parkway, jam-packed, going in the opposite direction, in the direction that I was going in to get into Manhattan. Not a single car on the road. You know, they had it shut down, obviously. But here I was as a first responder. I could go in. It was just crazy.
Did Suffolk give you any, like, no, you can't go, or because you're military, it's a written rule?
Military takes precedence. Once you get called on orders, whatever department you're with, they have to let you go. Suffolk did send a number of officers down for, I think, a few days as well. But thank God, the less the better, because as we have come to learn, it was all toxic environment.
Right.
So a lot of those people have been exposed.
It's funny you say that. Guys from Chicago, I was newer on the job. I came out in '97, so only had a couple years on. Guys went down there from Chicago. Our police chaplain, Father Dan Brandt, went down there. And I know two of the guys that went down there came back and they got the cancer and they died. One was weird because one was instantly, and then the other guy took him a couple more years. And everyone thought, oh man, that was from being down by 9/11.
Right.
So you're right. There was a lot of toxic shit going on over
Yes. But they weren't saying it back then. I saw them walking around like, oh, you don't need the mask. It's no big deal. You know.
Were you like choked up driving there? Like you're going to do your duty for your country, and fucking it had to be like fucking.
I was angry.
I came to tears a little bit. I've been choked up driving there, seeing that cloud, and hearing all this shit on the radio, and people probably calling, and hey, be careful,
Honestly, I get choked up every time I see the video of the people jumping from the towers.
That's another one that gets me.
Yeah.
And the female that holds her skirt down.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
She don't lose any respect, but she knows she's.
Yeah.
Right.
That says a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy. How long were you detailed to the 9/11 area?
I think it was about 10 days. About 10 days. It was all recovery, cleanup.
Did they go 24/7?
Yeah, we did, because I was the night TOC manager, leader, I guess
Now,
you would
what's
call
TOC?
it. Tactical Operations Center.
Okay, just so that people.
It's really a coordination center handling other units that were coming in, dispersing them, telling them where they need to go, but there really was not much going on.
And Mike, and you hear stories, but what was the community like? Were they taking these guys in? Were they bringing them water? Were they bringing them food?
Oh.
All these volunteers that were coming out there.
Community was outstanding. As we would drive down to Ground Zero, because we were up on like 63rd Street, they would line the streets on both sides with bottled water, with socks, food, clapping.
Remarkable when it's something under that circumstances that people do come together. This country is a great country.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you see it going to shit a little bit, but I really believe there was something bad that happened again, motherfuckers will come right back out.
In fact, the response reminded me of COVID, when police officers were again seen as heroes and being celebrated along with the nurses for going to work every day, hitting the pots and pans every night.
And then they fucked them that quick.
Until Floyd happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they fucked them. That was unbelievable.
Right.
Even the nurses were getting fucked. Take the shot and lose your job.
Yes, exactly.
Wait, I had to sacrifice through all this shit?
Yeah, disgraceful.
That was total bullshit. That was total bullshit. Yeah. So 9/11 goes, everything's not getting back to normal, but they're cleaning it up. They're doing a great job. I just heard stories of even construction workers coming and getting all that shit out of there just nonstop.
My father and brother were construction workers. They worked the pile. Yeah, everybody was hands-on.
That's how, did you guys hear the not-for-profit Tunnels to Towers?
Tunnels to Towers, yeah.
That's how that started, right?
Well, I think his brother was running with his
Right.
gear because the traffic was backed up at the tunnel. So he ran through the tunnel with his gear on. That's why they do the run, the tunnel to the towers.
Right,
Yeah.
it was like so many miles he ran with all this shit to
Yeah.
get there. Oh, that's amazing too.
Got
They do a
stuck.
great job.
They do.
I've never been involved with them, but they do a great job from what I understand,
Yes.
buying houses and
Taking care of our
people.
fallen,
Yeah,
the families, police and military. And
Unfortunately,
obviously
we're still
FT.
losing people. It's,
Yes. Yes.
It's disgusting.
We lost one on my job in my precinct, Craig Capolino, Officer Craig Capolino. He was there as a city officer, then came over to Suffolk, but his ailments from 9/11 followed him, and he has since passed away from that.
Did they take care of him insurance-wise?
They take care of he falls under the umbrella of 9/11.
Good, because sometimes you know, you're in a different jurisdiction. How do you know you got it here?
It took some effort to get him on the wall of being killed in the line of duty, but the trustee in the 3rd precinct, Larry Ortolani, did a hell of a job doing that. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So, you're National Guard. This happens.
Yes.
What happens next?
What happens next is we didn't really have a big mission stateside. We were a core support group, headquarters. So a friend at work, a fellow cop, told me, "Hey, Mike, I belong to a civil affairs special operations unit. We're going to be invading Iraq in, let's say, 6 months." So I was like, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "No, I'm serious." I was like, it wasn't Afghanistan, which is where I wanted to go, obviously, because that's where 9/11 stemmed from, with Al-Qaeda being housed by the Taliban. But I was like, all right, that's close enough for me. Put in my paperwork, and I transferred into this unit. By December, I was in Fort Bragg, get my 2 weeks of Army training, which is, I still think it's amazing. 2 weeks of training, and then they put me in charge of a special operations team, gave me grenades, guns, a rifle, and by, I think it was March, I was invading Iraq.
So now you're just a couple years on the police department still.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit. And never did they ever give you a hard time about fucking going to active duty or anything like that?
No.
You spent some time overseas.
I did 2 tours, and then I did several other training missions in NATO. No, the police department was very supportive, actually. They came up with a MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, to make sure that our members didn't lose any money if they got deployed. No, you didn't lose any time off. You still get paid military days. It was great.
I think in Chicago they gave a couple guys a hard time about deploying.
No.
But since then it's been kind of normal now. They understand. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
You got to go. You got to go.
No, they were true patriots about it.
Yeah. Good. So you're go to Iraq. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So it was a pretty wild concept for me. You're invading a country, and we were going in with 10 Special Forces group. So you're studying up on the country. We got pre-positioned we were in Romania for a month before. And then one day you get the call. You get on this bird, you're taking a C-130 in. We got dropped in Kurdistan, northern Iraq. We get some of our teams together, and then we convoy down to Mosul. And once we get to Mosul, there's nothing more than Mosul airfield. And nobody else is there except Marines had secured it. I think about 100 Marines. 10 Special Forces group is there, obviously.
We probably only needed 20, but they sent extra, huh?
What's that?
The Marines?
Yeah. they were awesome. We heard a story right away when we got there that there was Marines saw these armed men chasing some people downtown, and they lit them up. Well, it happened to be, it was the police chasing bank robbers. But, it was a wartime environment. Marines weren't able to identify, but God bless them. They secured that airfield, and it was just our groups there in the beginning, very austere. And so funny enough, when we're sleeping in an open bay, and it's kind of long days, so when you sleep, you sleep. So I wake up one morning and I'm told, "Hey, did you hear we got attacked last night?" I'm like, "They attacked the perimeter." I'm like, "No, I had no idea. I slept right through it." So I was like, "All right, where?" And they told me. I was like, "All right." So I talked to some of my soldiers, and look, these guys were told, we're going to war. We're going to fight Saddam's Republican National Guard, people that have been torturing people, killing people. It's like they wanted some action, as did I. So I put together a mission. As civil affairs, we have to do assessments of the area, of the roadways. This way, other units can be able to transit through. What's the conditions? Are the lights working? So I put together a mission. We're going to take a mission around the whole ring road of Mosul, which maybe the equivalent is like 410 in San Antonio, I think. It's about an hour drive. So we went out that night. We had, I think, 3 Humvees.
When you say that, it covers the whole town.
It's a circle around the whole city of Mosul.
Okay.
So I think most people have heard of Mosul in the years since with Iraq.
Yeah.
It's a big area, stronghold of the enemy, fighting against the Kurds. So this is only the first month into the war. We get an interpreter that needs to be dropped off, so we get a lieutenant colonel involved in the mission. So we get 3 Humvees, a couple of teams, and we go out the gate. And I got to tell you, it was like Mad Max. There's tires burning. You see silhouettes on the rooftops. And here's these idiots. We're looking to engage the enemy. and maybe say God favors the stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
We may have gotten shot at by some harassment fire, 1 or 2s, but we really didn't get attacked.
And as I said earlier, it's almost like if you can picture Black Hawk Down, that's what he's talking about. Sure. Shit, people fucking dipping out of hallways, people on the roads and shit, you don't know what the fuck to do. Until they engage you.
We think they were so shocked by us that they were afraid of us and didn't want anything to do with us, thinking, oh, these guys must be like real. They probably thought we were a 10th group, which we were not. But they call it the SGLI run. In the military, is Serviceman's Group Life Insurance is SGLI. That's the $400,000 insurance policy you get if something happens to you, and they mockingly called it the SGLI run.
How did you do these runs?
Well, that was a one-time deal.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, we only did that once. But we were running missions. We were running missions we moved out of Mosul shortly after. Within a couple of weeks, we got assigned to Kurdistan in Simonelli. And we would make a mission to Mosul and Kirkuk at least once a week. Because again, things were kind of quiet where we were in Kurdistan, and we were there because we wanted to engage with the enemy.
Yeah. And like we talked about this before, it's like anyone going into the military, especially in like 0311 infantry guys, so they want to see action. And I was telling them, I go, listen, I was 0311 4 years, never seen anything, and I fucking knock on wood sometimes that I didn't.
Right.
You see these guys, I've interviewed some of these guys, but they got great spirits. I don't know if I would have even come out of there. You never know where your luck's going to go.
You have no idea.
It's your time, they say, but
it really is all about luck. Because I know we were on missions, walking a district governor or somebody assessing railroads, or driving through Mosul, and you would hear harassment fire, but you had no idea where it was coming from. But it was just a matter of luck that it didn't hit you.
And it's funny how you call it harassment fire.
I've never heard
well, fucking shooting at me. He's just harassing you.
That's really all it did.
Yeah, well, you don't know that, though. One hits one of you motherfuckers, it's
absolutely
lights out,
You're right.
So it's a dangerous spot regardless. It's almost like you're a fucking sitting target. It's fucking, they're going to shoot at me. I can't do nothing about it. Because like you were saying earlier, you didn't know where it was coming from.
Right. And that
long range, fucking whizzing bullets by you.
And that showed the difference. Like, we would get shot at sporadically, get shelled or whatever, but we're not killers. We're not murderers.
Right.
We're trained professionals. So we don't just open up into the Netherlands or into the city not knowing who we may not hit.
Right.
For one thing, that's just against your morality. We're not there to hurt good people or mess up their lives. But number two, that makes it harder for the next soldier that's driving through, because now maybe you did hit somebody that didn't have a beef with America, but now they do.
Right.
So now they'll be targeting your guy. So in that regard, you do the right thing.
So real quick, Giggles, you got any questions for him, or are you just gonna sit there and drink your cookies?
So, how did you escape some of the toxins down at Ground Zero? Were you wearing a respirator?
I did go down there with a respirator. I took it off to eat something, I remember. And I didn't spend much time at Ground Zero because after being down there and seeing all the dust, seeing that we weren't really recovering, not rescuing people, they were recovering remains, I was like, what can I do here that somebody else isn't already doing? So most of my time was spent on 65th. But during that short time, either there or what I was exposed to in Iraq and Afghanistan, I have gotten some ailments, and I do go through the World Trade Center, and it messed me up, but not nearly as bad as other people. So I think I'm very fortunate.
There was a movie out with Nicolas Cage. Did you see it?
I don't know which
Some
one.
people say they don't watch it. Nicolas Cage and the little Hispanic guy, where they're trapped underneath there, and they're hitting the pipes and stuff like that. They finally get rescued. It's a true story. Well, it's kind of based on a true story. So I don't know if you knew about it.
No.
If you can relate on it. I think they're both still alive.
Yeah.
I wish I remember the name of it. But it was a pretty interesting story. So I was just wondering if there was any truth to it. You know what I'm saying?
One of the guys I work with, Officer Miguel Villas, who was a city cop at that time, from what I understand, he jumped into a dumpster as that whole cloud of dust overtook the area when the towers fell, and he believed he was dead. So, yeah, I mean, he thought it was lights out if you were right there.
We were coming back from the lake yesterday, and the fucking clouds were coming out. This is fucking scary.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what they were going through.
Yeah.
And then when we look back in the mirror, they were coming through the skyscrapers.
Right.
It's like a fucking haunted movie.
Oh.
But I can't imagine that. Not, just hearing or seeing the towers.
You know
and
you
fucking
can't
this
outrun
big
it, yeah.
Fucking thing just coming at you.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you're going back and forth now, right? You're in the Army. You fucking come back home. You
Yeah.
do another tour.
You do a tour, then you do training. It was actually harder to get to combat than you would think.
Yeah.
It's not exactly that easy. So years go by, and then 2010.
But you're not a frontline guy, though. No disrespect, but you know what I'm saying? You're not one of those. You're not a grunt. They said in first because we didn't score high on our fucking test. Do you know what I'm saying?
No. Listen, I'll be the first one to say I'm not infantry. I'm not special forces. I have not seen nearly the things that other people have. I've tried to do, fight for my country and do the right thing.
Oh, you did a great job. I'm just saying it's like you say it's hard to get in the combat, but
It actually is
different. You know.
Because only certain units it's on a rotating basis, and if you're not in that unit at that time, you're not going.
Right.
So in 2009 was given orders I was going to go to the Horn of Africa. I'm like, oh, what do I want to do in Africa? Besides it being hot and bugs and crap. So I had heard that the unit that I went to Iraq with was going to Afghanistan. So I did some wheeling and dealing, and I got switched my orders, and so I got on the Afghan mission finally.
Yeah.
And so in 2010, I went as a deputy provincial reconstruction team commander to Logman province as part of the OEF 10.
And that's what you wanted this whole time, to go to Afghanistan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking totally understand that.
Yeah.
You know?
And, where I was chasing for the gunfight in Iraq, I finally got my wishes in Afghanistan.
Was this on patrol or just?
It was I was part of the advanced team. We know when we're switching out, that's when the Taliban was hitting us because they know you got new guys coming in, don't know what they're doing. So you're more susceptible to an attack. So I got on the Avon team, and as we were there for a few weeks before the whole team came over, the whole team, we were out on a joint patrol, and it was for an engineering mission. So here we are assessing water pipes, sewage and stuff for the village. Everything's going nice. Then all of a sudden, things get quiet. You hear one shot, and we're in a valley. So there's a mountain. We're walking along the side of a mountain. And across from us is another mountain that's going up probably 600-700. So this one I don't think was actually harassment fire.
That's more like, you might be thinking that though, right?
Sniper fire.
This was different. It was just one shot, and it like from that became silence. I think it was like a warning for the locals, clear out of the area. And in fact, there was absolutely after that nobody around. And then a short time later, we happened to be in a clearing, the part that I was in. There was about 20 of us soldiers, a few from the new mission and the rest that had been there the past year. All of a sudden, everything lit up. Literally, just like being in the movies. Like if I die and go to heaven, I want to ask God for a replay to show me. Sure. I hear the bullets whizzing past my head. The rocks are dancing at my feet. So now I'm literally high-stepping it so I don't get shot there and ducking so I don't get it in the head. And then I run, and I'm about to go dive. There's about a 2.5-foot wall of rocks that is built along the side of the mountain. And in between that little wall and the mountain is about 2 to 3 feet with a bit of a gully. Water is coming through there. I go to dive. No, it's taken. Nope, it's taken. So finally I get to an empty spot. I jump over it, and as I jump over it, right on the other side of those rocks, and I'm like this. I'm scared for my freaking life. I hear thump, thump, thump. I think it was a 30 cal PKM Dushka, and they were shooting right where I was. After a few seconds, and while that's going on, anybody who's not being shot at, they're shooting downrange, across at the mountain. As I was, and this was against the rules of engagement. And you know what? When you're getting fired upon, you're going to do the same thing. I'm just like that. Well, after a few seconds, felt like an eternity. It stops hitting against the rocks on the opposite side. So now this is my one shot. I went through a whole year in Iraq with 0. I bought an ACOG, a special sight, just for this mission, so I could see long distance because we were told you'd be fighting more long distance. So I thought, well, I hope they don't have any good snipers that are really good shots. So I peek up because everybody else is still hiding under the thing, and I start scanning. I'm scanning. And maybe after it was a minute, I see the 3 guys. It was a 3-man machine gun team, probably 500 yards up on the mountain across from me, coming out from under a tree. So I start lighting them up. I loaded probably close to a half magazine already, and then now another half through a reload. And the lieutenant colonel who was in charge of the mission, he was there for the past year. He knew his stuff, calling in all the radios and stuff. He's asking me, where are they? So I'm trying to call it out to him. He gets air on the radio, and I'm telling him we got three military-age males running. They're going over the crest. So at the end, while we got attacked and we were ambushed, at least I know the way this ended was they knew they were running for their lives. I don't think I hit them, but they knew they had rounds coming at them.
Yeah.
And then very shortly after, I've never been so happy to see the Air Force before in my life. F-15 comes flying by and drops bombs on the mountain. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember a story, I don't know if it's true, when you ran off rounds, were you a 3-round burst or were you fully automatic?
I didn't do full auto, so yeah.
Because they've saying that was a problem in Vietnam with, because they had full auto at one time,
Yeah.
and they would just do this and
Spray and pray.
and they would run out of ammo so fast doing it. That's why they originally came up with the new
And overheating
3-round
and
burst.
malfunctions and
Yeah.
everything else.
I didn't even do 3-round burst. I always kept it on single fire,
Okay.
semi-automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So was it 5.56 or?
that was 5.56. Yeah.
What was your capacity? How many magazines were you carrying?
I was carrying the outer body armor, the plate carriers, and I had, I want to say, 6 additional mags, and then a couple grenades, and then Camelback, tourniquet, maybe one.
You're kind of going in a
Flare.
convoy?
No, this is dismounted patrol. We were on our foot,
Foot
on
patrol,
our
on
feet.
foot.
Yeah, we were on our feet walking through the mountains. So I was already gassed because
Yeah.
of the altitude difference. It's only my second week in country. We're in the middle of nowhere in Cap Nagil, it's called, Punisher Base in Lagman Province. So the whole thing was just surreal for me, and climbing up and down mountains through people's front yards, backyards, and then for this to happen, and then when it was all over, it was return to base, and we get back to base. And
Did you have to walk back?
oh yeah, there's
Why do
no,
you know if they sent vehicles to get you?
vehicles couldn't get
Did
there.
anybody get hit on your team?
Nobody got hit.
Oh, wow.
It was freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I say I want to see an
Machine
instant
gun team
replay.
and they missed. Wow.
And the whole time we were communicating with this team back from the States as we were training up, the guys were telling, man, things are really hot here. We're really facing a lot of enemy fire. And in fact, one of the guys did get hit by a sniper right in the ass. But after this, and the guy that I was communicating with said, Mike, that is the closest we've ever come to getting killed. That was freaking crazy. I was like, I thought you guys have been doing this for the past year. So it was, it was the highlight of my career. It was crazy to
Oh,
say.
it's great. I mean,
Yeah.
it takes one time and that's it,
Yeah.
man. So when you get out of Afghanistan, do you go back again, another tour, or is it just a one-tour deal?
Well, I come back in it's 2010. I could have went back again, but I couldn't personally. I'm a single dad, and my parents had to move into my house for me to deploy, and they did it as a favor because they knew how much I wanted to. My dad, very patriotic, but they couldn't go through it again, especially, God forbid, if something happened to me, they'd be
Right.
raising my son. So they asked me not to, so I didn't deploy anymore, and I had to end up retiring.
Well, that's what 30 years
I did 30 years total.
total,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I hope you get a nice pension for that. I don't know if they pay a lot, but you should get something.
Eventually, I'll get
So
something.
you're back in Suffolk County
Yeah.
Police Department. When do you come up with the idea for the book?
That right after the summer after Floyd. I mean, Floyd happened in the end of May. I would say sometime June, July. See, what happened in January through April of 2020, I was working on my master's degree in national security. So I was writing my master's thesis. Being an Army guy, national security issues, kind of familiar with the whole world picture. I wanted to write about our true enemy, China, obviously, as we see with its build-up, massive build-up, wants to be the greatest power. A resurging Russia, EMP blast that could take down our grid. But I knew from Michael Brown incident, then what we saw in 2016, how the justified deadly shootings of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile were turned to make everything racialized against the police. I saw how that was turning the country against itself, using police as the impetus to do that. And I thought, you know what, the greatest danger to our country is from within, is this division that they're using race and claims of racism against the police. So I did it on deadly police shootings. And my thesis was the racial bias of deadly police shootings by the press, protesters, and politicians, not by the police. So, and I proved it scientifically. I looked at 4 years, the front covers of USA Today, and I picked USA Today because it has the largest distribution in the entire country. And I looked at their front page stories and the teasers of stories that, they have a few sentences and it connects to page 7 or 15 in the back. And of those front pages, there was 82 stories on deadly police shootings of people, naming 57 black subjects, a total of 132 times. And one story that included the name of a white subject once. So 132 times about black subjects compared to one, which included one about a white guy.
Right.
Meanwhile, during those 4 years, there was 3,668 police shootings, fatal shootings, of which 1,880 were of white people and about 948 were of black people. So 2-to-1 ratio, white to black, but you would never know any of that by reading the paper.
Right.
And now, granted, at least 95% of those shootings are justified right off the bat because the people are armed. They have guns, knives, bats, crowbars, trying to run the cop over, you name it.
Right, right.
So barring some extenuating circumstance, the cop is obviously justified.
Because everyone thinks automatically, well, he didn't have a gun.
Right.
Or maybe he had a knife or a vehicle. Sure.
Right. And then there's the fact that every call we know as cops is a gun call because we're bringing a gun.
Right.
So of those, say 50, because there's about 1,000 shootings a year. Of those 50, there's about 50 a year where the person is unarmed. But what unarmed means, they're in a car driving at a cop. 11 cops die each year approximately getting run over by people. Or they're in the presence of somebody who is armed and shooting at the police. They just happen to not be armed.
Right.
Or they're physically attacking the officer, such as we had 3 cops in the last 3 years either beaten to death, one stomped, Corporal Keith Heatcook, I think his name was, and 2 others that were beaten, temporarily knocked out. The perps took their gun and executed them with them.
Yeah.
So they're still justified to use deadly force against somebody, even if they're unarmed.
Sure. And there was a recent one, the female, he stovepipe or whatever, it jammed, and he took her gun out and finished her off.
Yes,
was here in
Ridaway. I forgot her name. Yes, that was by near the end of Christmas or New Year's.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rip Manick, I think, Officer Rip Manick.
But yeah, it was crazy.
Right.
Then he fled and, oh, don't kill me, don't kill me.
Right.
He executed her.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Right.
100%.
So I had just finished my thesis, saw all this, and I did more. I compared case studies of the reactions by the politicians and the press to the Michael Brown shooting compared to Justin Damon and Alton Sterling compared to Daniel Shaver. The Obama presidency sent 2 or 3 representatives to Michael Brown's funeral, to Alton Sterling's funeral. These are perps.
Yeah.
Michael Brown attacked a cop, a good cop,
Right.
who ended up having to retire and flee his hometown, flee where he was living for his life.
After he committed a strong arm robbery.
Right, exactly.
Business
Yeah.
owner.
Right, committed a strong arm robbery, him and his buddy.
Yep.
And even black witnesses came forward and said, if that was, look, I'm no fan of the police, but if that was me, I would have shot that boy before.
He was a big fucking kid.
He was like 6'3", 300 pounds, yeah. And then Alton Sterling, he had just menaced a man with a gun in front of a store and was going for the gun in his pocket as he was physically resisting with the cops. So these are no 2 angels.
Right.
But the president sent 2 or 3 representatives to their funerals. Meanwhile, the white people that I compare against, they weren't even armed. So night and day.
Yeah.
So I knew all this, and then George Floyd happened, and our entire profession was painted as racist. So I was like, you know what? No way. Because then on top of that, my son's school sent out a thing to every parent wanting you to join the equity team. We need to talk about racism, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
And here's some links you could learn more so you could talk with your son. So I clicked on these links. And what I found was stories demonizing the police about Alton Sterling, about Philando Castile, about Michael Brown, all complete lies. So I got as part of the group though, because in the military, I was the honor graduate for the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute. I was the aide to a 1-star general as the equal opportunity officer. I found out later why he asked me to do that. It was because he knew I wasn't going to put up with any false claims of BS. So I've been schooled and I know what kind of stuff they talk about. So I joined the team and I started talking to the people that were talking anti-police stuff. These were teachers. These were people in the community, leaders. And I would give them the facts and they would ignore it. And they brought in this anti-racism trainer. So finally I had enough. I spoke at the school board meetings And I thought, you know what? We need a book that we can reference as the police, as the people who believe in the police, as the good guys, that we could say, these are the facts. This is the truth. So I put my entire thesis in there, but then I take it one next step further. Don't listen to me. Don't take my word for it. I put the facts of every incident for 2019 and 2020 of officers killed in the line of duty, and then of people that were unarmed killed by the police. And I let everybody see, and I reference about 3 to 5 different news stories. You make the decision. Read the facts and you decide.
Right.
Was the officer justified? Oh, now you see how in case A, cop was killed by this person who was unarmed, and that's why the cop shot this person that was unarmed in that case.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I was asking you earlier, when I went through the academy in '97, I thought it was kind of a simple thing. You had to learn 10 questions in deadly force. And you said the same thing in New York?
Right.
But you had to get 100 out.
Yes, got to get 100.
They are the same way?
I believe so. I can't remember actually with our
No, do
deadly
you
force.
teach deadly force at all?
No.
You just said before that you teach these guys how to stay alive.
Right.
But you have to
Well,
incorporate.
mine is I run combat pistol, combat carbine, and entry tactics. So, as far as use of force policies, I don't instruct on that.
Okay.
I just,
That's probably at the academy basic.
Yeah, no, I
level,
got
yeah.
that. Just,
He's
you
doing
know,
tactics.
Because you do forget some shit. I mean, you're on the job 20 years and fucking, I can't remember all 10 questions.
no.
You know, I know this. The guy's got a fucking gun.
Well, I can tell you what
shoot it.
the perception is, because I just helped with a Navy Sea cadets training down in Kentucky. God bless them. These are like 26 young teenage kids that want to go into the military or law enforcement, so they do a week of training. And we train them on police tactics. It was like a mini police academy. And we would run them through car stops. And they were getting killed by the bad guy because they thought that they weren't allowed to even touch their weapon, no less use deadly force, until they saw the bad guy's gun pointed at them, ready to kill them. So we had to
That's-
educate them.
That's what they're teaching them nowadays.
And that's what the public probably thinks as well, because,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't, they're way back on these fucking kids. Like, don't do this, don't do that.
Right.
If you do, you're fucking done.
Well,
And
I just
it's
don't know
gonna
that
kill 'em.
there's
It
another
is.
It's gonna get 'em killed.
profession out there that gets to be regulated and driven so much by armchair quarterbacks and
Right.
media and just
Exactly.
plain old citizens.
Mhm.
I don't know of any
Right.
other profession
None.
that gets regulated like law enforcement by
Mm.
people who have no understanding of what violence is, what use of force is,
Right.
what constructive violence is.
Right.
Who, when placed under the same circumstances, show that they do the same exact things we do, because when we run people, our biggest critics, through these citizens academies
Right.
and give them a simulated day of simulation.
They shoot everybody.
Exactly, they shoot everybody.
They
Like,
do
oh
that
my
in
God.
Chicago.
Yeah.
To
yeah.
reverends and,
Yes.
here's the thing, here's a deadly force scenario.
Exactly.
They're like, holy fuck.
Right.
That disappears though.
Yeah.
It's gone. They don't bring it up anymore.
And I gotta tell, I think a lot of them are not being honest. Like, I've brought my book to social activists, people speaking out against the police and want to make things better. I've given them the book to read over. I told them, I will address your crowd, any audience you have for me. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't want to talk about the truth.
Because honestly, it's a money train right now for these motherfuckers.
It is. It's their gravy train.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Is there anything else in the book you want to bring up? I know there's a lot of case files in here, like actual. Are these court written?
Court written. What I do is there's over 1,100 references in there because I make the book factual. It's not about personal opinion.
Right.
Because the master's thesis is built into it. So what you'll find is I analyze the current situation, the history, talk about how we mentioned before, the police were regaled for going out there and protecting the public during Corona, while people were being told you're not allowed to have funerals, you can't go to church. Then all of a sudden George Floyd was killed, and oh no, you can protest. There's no chance of catching the coronavirus. So the whole medical community came out and was two-faced about it. So the world was flipped upside down. So I put it all in context and show how this politician was saying one thing and then flipped to another, and then I give all the incidents for people to decide for themselves.
Yeah.
And 100% of the profits will be donated to nonprofit groups that take care of our fallen. I've been blessed with two careers like we're talking about right here between Suffolk and the military.
Yeah.
So this isn't for me to make money. This is being done because I went to Iraq and Afghanistan to fight for my country, for love of country. I couldn't just sit back and be quiet as it gets destroyed from within. So I don't want to make money off of the deaths of my fellow cops. So the money will be donated
Well, thank you for that.
to groups like Brotherhood for the Fallen.
I think you do Tunnels to Towers.
Tunnels to Towers, the Officer Down Memorial page.
And guys, this is what this podcast is about. It's about guys like this that serve their country, their community, and it's a lifetime commitment. You guys did either so many hours, or not hours, years in the military, and you can make it a career as a civil servant to the communities.
Right, exactly.
And I think that's amazing. That's the stories we need to let these American people hear.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of high-profile military guys, but yeah, that is what it is.
God bless them.
They don't know
know
about all these other guys that dedicate legs and arms and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, you 30 years in the military. You know, Coast Guard, undercover work, risking your life.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, risking life
Incredible stories he has.
It's incredible, and some, you know, probably be among you guys that you serve this country the way you do.
Thank you. And,
thank
there's so many more like us, because I could think of a specialist who, we went out one night, it was actually Easter in 2010 in Afghanistan, and one of our vehicles, the security forces that we had for the base, they got ambushed with an IED because they were driving by the poppy fields. They're very protective of their poppy fields in Afghanistan. So the sergeant in the vehicle, he got blown up pretty bad, lost a leg, he almost died. But we were the quick reaction force for that day. So we went out in a bunch of MRAPs. It was about an hour away, driving along the side of a mountain. Well, that day turns into night, and now it's raining. One of the vehicles goes down. So MRAPs, I don't know if they're 2.5 tons, they are freaking huge. And these roads.
Explain, like, I don't know what an MRAP is.
MRAP is military, mine-resistant anti-personnel vehicle.
What's it carry? How many passengers?
From what I remember, it was about 8 of us in the back, guy in the gun turret, and then 2 guys in the front, passenger driver.
I don't think I've ever came across it when it was a long time ago, 85 to 89. They had the Humvees, and even those, I think, were penetratable back then.
They were heavily up armored on the bottom.
They were. In Iraq, though, since we were the first rotation, we were in unarmored Humvees. There was nothing. We just took the doors off because they were worthless. But the MRAPs, they were brought in as a reaction to the IEDs to defeat them. I thought of them as like sardine cans. I hated it. I felt like I was constricted because my first tour, I was in the front of a Humvee, it was nice and open. Now I'm sitting in the back. So anyway, you got this MRAP goes down. So the one I'm in, it's a specialist driving. We got to tow it. He's towing this MRAP at night under the rain on a road that there was maybe this much on each side of the vehicle. And if he screwed up in any way, we were going off the side of the freaking cliff down about 100 feet into a ravine. We were going to freaking die. While it's coming over the radio that we have an ambush coming in, 20 military age fighting males making their way to our position. And this specialist made it. He got us back to that base that night. He got an Army commendation for that, and rightfully so. Nobody will never hear of him, but things like that every day. Just like our cops out in the street every day doing stuff.
And he's probably thinking, oh, it's not a big story. I was just driving a vehicle, you know what I'm saying? But you're fucking...
No, that was legit.
Throwing water, you know what I'm saying?
I think I might have been more scared that night than I was in that ambush.
Really?
Yeah.
That's some crazy stuff. So, Mike, going through the experience you have, 30 years military, 22 years Suffolk County, what advice do you have for any of our young listeners that are either going to join the service or join the police department, fire department, any first responder job that they want to get?
So you're going to join the military or the police, work out. Rule number 1, you have to be more scary than the predator. Because they prey on weakness, and you're going into a career field where you literally have people's lives in your hands. They're going to look to you to save them. So you can't look behind you for somebody else because they're looking at you. So you need to be physically fit, you need to be mentally fit. You have to be prepared every day going to work.
And I believe in that old saying where it says, envision it. Envision what might happen.
Absolutely.
What you're gonna do if it does happen. I believe in that.
You're right.
You know, I'm going to go through the store. What if this guy's sitting there with a fucking shot? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know? I believe in that. You got to psych yourself up. You got to, in your mind, go through the role, what's going to happen.
Right, because it's a lot easier to bring things down than it is to escalate and catch up to somebody who's already ahead of you.
And there's very few people, I don't know if you come across them, that once it's escalated, they can bring it down. It's hard.
It's a talent.
It's a fucking hidden talent, man. And there's very few people that can do it. We had a guy, Rich Kruger, man. That motherfucker will come in, beat his nightstick, fucking pissing everybody off. Before I know it, they're serving him fucking coffee. I'm like, how does this motherfucker do it?
Yeah.
But he did it. He did it. He could bring it up, but he bring it
Because it
down.
wasn't personal.
Yeah.
It was just doing what needed to be done.
Yeah.
And once the threat was stopped or the person was secured, then that's it.
Yeah.
It's over. Retired military 2019.
And what do you do for the police department?
I mean, it kills me.
Well, he's on the fucking desk again.
I'm kind of on the desk. I'm in claims investigation and works on civil claims, which, I mean, it's a great thing because it's working with the attorneys in the county attorney's office, protecting our members that are being sued for doing their job. So, you know,
Yeah.
people claiming, and I read these and they kill me because I see the jailhouse lawyers because they're literally writing these from jail because they have nothing but time. And the judges, and it writes on there, give them special leeway, even though the case is a sham and their English is all messed up, that because they're doing it by themselves, they give them special leeway to see it through.
These are the same judges that are incarcerating them, right?
Well, the same
Should be.
judges that are letting them out early.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but you know, we bust your balls a little bit about the desk job, but without guys like you fucking countering that,
Yeah.
it saves a lot of our
So
officers.
you need guys like him in IAD too.
Yeah. No. Well, that's a whole nother ballgame. That fucking.
It is. I've from what I've seen, actually one of the guys I went to Iraq with is now in internal affairs. Some guys I know from the gang team are in internal affairs. What I'm seeing, a good trend in my department, we have guys that were very active cops that are in internal affairs, which is great.
They're reading through the bullshit.
Right.
Instead of
if so-
fucking the cop over.
nobody hates a worse cop more than a good cop.
Right.
So we don't want people out there doing the wrong thing.
And you put that perfectly. You did. Because no one thinks about that.
Right.
They
Right.
think about fucking bad cops, but we hate them just as much as they hate them.
Right. But it's
They
not a
use a
bad
bad
cop when somebody has to use justified
Right.
force to take somebody down. That's not
Right.
being a bad cop.
Nope.
That's being a good cop.
You're
So-
doing your job.
Right, exactly.
No, 100%. So, back in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
anything else you want to bring that up on before we go into the police department? a
Oh,
little
I think
further?
maybe in Iraq, just to show you, we talk about in the police department, there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. So in Iraq one day, we're just out and about in the wild lands of northern Iraq, going up close to the Iranian border, doing village assessments. We could do these, do 2 or 3 a day. And we come upon a gully where there's 2 SUVs and about 24 military-age males. And right away, we get the spidey senses tingling. And my interpreter, who's from the area, can tell what people look like. He's like, "Sir, this is very bad. They are not from here." I'm like, "Oh, no kidding." So we set up a perimeter around them.
Just by their dress.
The way they're dressed, the way they look at their face, yeah. And so we get weapons on them. Now somebody's got to go talk to them. So me being the commander, or the team leader, I go down with the Terp while everybody's trained on them. I talked to who obviously was their leader because he was dressed up like as the Muslim leader. And he said they're making a pilgrimage to Karbala or Najaf. This is an active combat zone. They're not making a pilgrimage. What they are, they're fighters going to resupply the guys fighting against my soldiers down in Najaf and Karbala.
Right.
They unfortunately, they only had the one weapon on them because I guess they knew in case they get caught, they couldn't be carrying the full arsenal. But they all had a shitload of money, like big wads of friggin' Iranian rials, I think they were. So we did a search on every one of them, make sure, and I had no idea what we found. So I was just hoping not one of them had a suicide vest on them.
Right.
Did a search of every single one of them. None of them did. We took all their money, and then we happened to have contacts with the OGA because we were partying at their safe house, drinking some Johnny Walker Blue, which is very nice. Called them up on the sat phone, had them meet us at the next Curtis Peshmerga checkpoint, because that's all we had was three Humvees at that point, with some Curtis Peshmerga with us, and then we handed them off to the OGA and the Kurds, and God knows what happened to them from there, but we did the right thing. Right. What ends up happening is we uncovered the fact, and this went all the way to the top of General Petraeus, that Iranians were smuggling or sneaking through the border and resupplying the fighters down south. So then they started a whole effort at the border, and we would be doing joint patrols with the Al-Assad, which was their version of the FBI, for the rest of the year. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Now, what do you think the ratio is of officers that are reservists, whatever, that are in the wars? You know what I'm saying? Because I think you mentioned one time, like, we were out of police at one time, so we don't know how to search these motherfuckers.
See, the unit I was in, civil affairs, was heavily filled with police officers, firefighters, because the nature of the job was you're dealing with civil military operations, supporting the civil administration. You're teaching countries and governments how to stand up, how to function. So it was heavily involved with police officers.
Yeah. But that's got to have a good feeling being out there.
Oh no, that was great.
Yeah, he's got some experience, you know what I'm saying? Fucking.
It was all really, as I joked before, I had 2 weeks of Army training. So it was really my police training that I counted on.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. If I hadn't been a cop, I'd be like, all right, yeah, I'm a kid from Brooklyn. Yeah, I'm tough, okay. I mean, I had 2 weeks of training. So no, being a cop was really important for all the training I received from NYPD in Suffolk.
So 22 years law enforcement, 30 years military.
Yeah.
How much of that time did you spend away from the police department? While you were an active police officer, per se?
I probably had to spend maybe 3.5 years,
Really?
close to 4 years away from the job.
Yeah.
Because 9/11 happening, you know, we had dual campaigns going on, Iraq and Afghanistan. And then being an Italian speaker, I was stationed over in Italy. And then when Russia invaded, who did they invade that it killed me?
Recently, or?
They got, it's similar to a place in Georgia. No, they invaded Georgia. The first time Russia invaded Georgia, I was in Italy. I got switched over. I had to drive there, and we were helping with that mission.
Well, I saw in your book, you speak
Italian.
now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You being over there.
Right, because I was stationed in the Air Force. I had 3 years in Italy, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Amazing
Never
experience.
Never been there.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah?
Yeah. But no, the police department was really great about, you know, they let you go, and when you came back to your same position.
Good.
But it was tough.
Well, you should. You should.
You're doing the right thing.
Country. Right. Now, being back in Suffolk County, are you on patrol now? Are you back on the streets?
Well, now I'm in this civil, the claims investigator.
No, but when you first came back.
Back then, yeah, I was in patrol. From 2000 to, I think, 2007, I was in patrol. And then 2007 to 12, I was at the next level, was community-oriented policing enforcement. We were still in uniform, but we didn't have to follow the radio. We weren't answering radio calls.
You know, because of the Brotherhood, I get to meet a lot of officers around the country.
Yeah.
Suffolk County, I don't know if I read it somewhere, or one of the officers told me, there's a big problem with MS-13 in Suffolk County?
MS-13 was huge. We had the largest Salvadoran population outside of El Salvador in Brentwood, New York. They had their own, from what I understand, consulate to the embassy was in Brentwood. For whatever reason, they came there. I think part of it had to do with all the landscaping jobs going all the way out east with farming. So that huge population, and obviously MS-13 is from El Salvador, Honduras, and I think Guatemala, the Northern Triangle. So yeah, it was a huge issue. And especially with New York being a, what do they call that, state? They let the illegals come and go. Sanctuary, yes, thank you. Sanctuary state. So you can't really enforce immigration law against them, so they flock to New York. So yeah, I actually did lots of car stops on them. One of my partners was the gang guy. He knew all the MS-13 players. He was actually key in a lot of the arrests because they committed a whole lot of homicides in Suffolk County.
Really?
And this partner was key in getting a lot of those guys.
Amongst themselves or citizens?
Typically amongst themselves or other kids that they thought, you know, were with a different gang and flashed a rival sign.
Yeah.
Like they confused two girls for being part of a rival gang. This made national press because they weren't. And they killed them. And, you know, that got national attention. And they
Did it
got
help you guys?
the attention actually did because it showed how big of an issue it was,
Right.
and that it's not just gangsters getting killed; it's actually, you know, American citizens.
Yeah.
So it made a huge difference.
We had, I don't remember that many of them in Chicago at all. I know that one of the wagon guys pulled over a car, and there's always two guys in the wagon, and like 4 or 5 of these MS-13s jumped out and started jumping on these guys. Well, we always used to brag that, hey, fuck, we got the baddest gang in the fucking city of Chicago. We got
Exactly.
Motorola.
Right.
We get on the fucking radio, help's coming,
Right.
you know? And that's what happened. They fucking, help came and fucked these guys up.
Yeah.
I don't know if they learned a lesson or not, but we never had a problem with them after that.
No.
Not where I worked anyway.
Right.
I know they had saturated somewhere else in Chicago, but
Right.
not in the 10th district where I was at, you know? And it's true. I mean, you got that fucking lifeline.
Right.
You gotta know how to use it though. You can fuck it up, and
they know
I
it.
did one time. I didn't know where the fuck I was at. Dispatcher's like, Rick.
That's always the most important thing they tell you, right?
I'm looking around like,
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah.
He was good. He got rest of his soul. He passed away with COVID Lupe,
nothing beats a good dispatch.
he's like,
Right.
give me a landscape, give me a fucking
That's good.
landmark.
Yeah.
And I was like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like,
I
gotcha.
knew it.
Yep.
It's good.
And
Good
sent me
man.
out.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. All right, well, gents, I appreciate you guys coming on the show again.
Yeah.
The second time. Mike,
Thanks,
pleasure
Rick.
talking to you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for writing the book.
Thank you.
Let the guys know where you can get that book.
You can get that at jdfinformation.com. That's a website that has the book, which carries on, and it shows updated incidents where officers are being killed, and also some memes you can use to attack those keyboard warriors who are waging the war against us on social media. And it's online, available at any online bookstore as well. Justified Deadly Force and the Myth of Systemic Racism.
Awesome. Awesome.